Hey, what's up gamers, and well, time to do another game review on a game that I anticipated for this year for the Nintendo Wii U. Yeah, a console that's been pretty slow over the past couple of years slightly, but thankfully this one saw the light of day, Star Fox Zero. Now before I review the game, might I address the box art? Similar to Mario Maker, it has a cardboard box over it for what, another manual? Oh, okay, yeah, there's two games in it, apparently. There's a bonus game. First, let's get to the actual game, shall we? Star Fox Zero. Now, already this game was originally supposed to come out last year, but was obviously pushed till this year because Nintendo pretty much wanted to take their sweet-ass time and make sure it was extra polished and so forth, and it finally released and saw the light of day this year, and was open to rather mixed reactions. Mostly criticizing the controls and, length of the gameplay and everything. And, well, I will say there's some things I really liked about this game, some things I, sort of didn't like, but mostly liked about the game. So, yeah, I will say this game is actually pretty good. And it's got the same familiar Nintendo theme to it, Star Fox, flying around, playing as Star Fox himself. I mean, what else did you really expect? Other than the fact that most of the time it has familiar stuff to it. Like, yeah, you start out and of course it gives you a tutorial to learn the controls, and I could pretty much agree. Yeah, the controls are not 100% perfect, and they do take a lot of getting used to. Well, depending on what vehicle you are controlling. For the basic air wing that you pretty much should be familiar with, shooting, throwing bombs, barrel rolls, somersaults, and all that stuff, it's pretty easy for the most part, and it should feel right at home and pretty fresh. As for other vehicles, which I'll get to in a little bit, it's a different story. There's many other vehicles in this game, and I'm fine with that because the game, it's got a lot of variety to it. Variety is a good thing after all. Well, first of all, yes, of course this game is, since it's a Wii U game, it is compatible with the Wii U gamepad. I mean, who else wouldn't play a Wii U game without using the gamepad? But it is also compatible with a Wii Remote and a nunchuck, as well as a Pro Classic controller, if you have that one. Obviously, I don't have the Pro Classic controller made for the Wii U, but it's rather useful in a rather convoluted way, because apparently this game actually is supportive of a two-player co-op mode. Apparently, I guess the first player, who uses the Wii U gamepad. And yeah, it's pretty obvious, the person with the gamepad, that's what you want to use. You got all the advantages. You got the touchscreen thing, you got all the views and everything. I don't know how the hell this works with the second player using the Wii Remote and the nunchuck, but yeah, nobody wants to use the Wii Remote and nunchuck to play this. You want to use the gamepad. As I said, you have all the advantages, but apparently because it's a Wii U game, there's no online mode. Yeah, that's great. So I gotta find another person to play with after I pretty much killed my zombie friend off last year after he almost tried to eat my brains out. And, well, yeah, superb. You think you could have taken a little lessons and pointers from Splatoon and Super Smash Bros. And Mario Kart? No, you had to go the typical Nintendo third-party support way of only having two-player offline mode. Way to go, Nintendo. Or I should say, way to go, Star Fox. I mean, who else am I gonna play with? Who am I gonna play with? A two-player co-op mode. Who's going to join me on my quest to defeat Andross and Starwolf in his gang? What, am I going to wait for Slippy to show up at my door?
Slippy here? What's going on?
What the hell is that?
Slippy here. I'm okay. Let's take it to him.
He'll never learn. Some people, or animals I should say, will never learn.
No! Help me!
No, I do not want to help you. Go yourself,
Don't
stupid
worry.
PAP.
Slippy's here.
God. Anyway, yeah, there's no online mode, so
This is really starting to tick me off.
I'll teach him who's helping him. But anyway, yes. Yeah, the game has its variety of controls, but mainly you probably want to stick to the Wii U gamepad, because first of all, the different viewpoints. Like Nintendo Land and a couple other games that you notice, it's not the same thing as you see on the TV as it is on the gamepad. You can switch, and there is TV off mode, but it's probably in your best interest to play with the TV on and the gamepad on as well, because One will give you the first-person perspective, and the other will give you kind of like the third-person perspective. But the first-person perspective is what you have to have in your view to be able to shoot what you want to shoot. I will compliment the graphics and presentation. You got all the voices, the familiar characters. Yes, you got the annoying Slippy Toad. You got, of course, Falco. You got Peppy, accompanying you on most of your missions. So, yes, the flying missions are really good, but as I said, you have to have whatever you want to shoot in your first-person perspective. So most of the time I leave my first-person perspective on this thing, but you can switch it with the minus or select button to put it up on the TV and have the third-person view on this gamepad. So, yeah, of course you have the touchscreen as well, like when you get supply drops. So, yeah, a lot of the familiar stuff is all there. Shooting bombs out. Yeah, of course you get a limited supply of them, so you gotta use them wisely, as they say in the original 64 game. So, yeah, it does feel a little familiar, but maybe a little too familiar for the most part, at least for the first couple of levels. Getting the silver rings to help refill your health, so yeah, you gotta keep track of health. Though this time around they decided to change the gold ring rule. Instead of increasing your health meter by getting 3 of them, instead it gives you an extra life, which is very useful, especially for those really long and very tough levels that have multiple phases to them. Yeah, that's what it is, phases, not parts. Because, well, of course you're going to come to some level where you're going to end up dying probably at least once, or maybe twice, or, well, more than that, in fact. And you got boss fights, too, as well. Some are easy, and some are just a straight-up pain in the ass. This is the pretty basic part of the game that most you Star Fox fans would expect, but then there comes times when you can also switch between this and the Land Rover, which is highly recommended, obviously, to be able, as soon as you reach inside of the enemy's quarters. And, well, this is not the only part of the game. There's other parts in the game where you have to usually control this thing, and this can be really tricky. But, though, you can go back to using the basic air wing pilot thing, but, well, to be able to do land missions, it's highly recommended that you use this thing. So, yeah, getting used to controlling this thing is really iffy, especially moving side to side and getting the thing to float and shooting and avoiding taking damage. Yeah, it's really not that easy. But it takes a lot of getting used to, can be frustrating, but once again, just like the air wing, one view on the gamepad or TV is first person and the other is third person. So, choose your poison, and, well, as you can tell, I'm pretty much switching between one and the other. But then there's this part of the game which happens a few times, and it's the only time you can't switch or transform your vehicle, and this thing is called the gyro. Kind of reminds me of the helicopter thing from James Cameron's Avatar, those flying machines. So, yeah. This thing is probably even more of a pain in the ass to learn how to control. But once again, just like all the other vehicles, you of course are given instructions on how to control the thing, but after a lot of trial and error, you'll probably get used to its awkward controls. Especially when going down, because then you have to, of course, adjust the camera view, because it goes to a perspective where you're pretty much looking down. Once again, just like the other vehicle, the viewpoints are one on the TV and one on the gamepad is either first or third person perspective. I don't think I have to say much there. But this is where it gets even trickier, is controlling this little hacker thing. Yeah, this is how you hack. Unlike the Landmaster, where you can just simply press the green button to, well, pretty much turn off or hack any enemy device. This thing, well, you have to pull the thing out and it goes into, once again, a first-person perspective. Again, you can switch between the TV and the gamepad. So whatever you're seeing here on the TV is the first-person view of this little annoying voice guy. And, well, this is how you hack. You gotta make sure he's in the right position. And after a while and a lot of trial and error, it took me a while to how to control the thing, because, yeah, I know it's infuriating, but, yeah, basically the view of what you see here is the first-person view of this little annoying voiced robot guy, and basically what you see up ahead and is, well, what you have to move forward to, well, get him to move forward. And because, yeah, if you don't see the first person view, you're not going to know which direction he's supposed to go in. Very tough to explain, but you'll figure it out. Basically, you just got to hit the switch to control and hack any device of, well, the enemy. But I find it ridiculous of how you have to make him get out of the vehicle to collect coins. I mean, come on, these little coin things, I don't really know what their purpose is, but Why can't I just touch them with the vehicle? Why do I have to pull this little robot guy out? It's ridiculous. I don't really mind this too much after getting used to its weird controls, but it gets annoying and ridiculous trying to do this crap and focus on trying to take out enemies. It's also highly recommended you do this with the spotlight things, because once you get caught, well, it just makes things a lot more frustrating. So it's better off taking these things out, not to mention opening gates and so forth. So, yep, get used to this thing because you're going to be using it an awful lot. And then of course you also got this tank thing too, which, okay, yeah, this is another seemingly recycled thing that seems familiar from Star Fox 64, but instead of Slippy being shot down on the other planet, it's Peppy this time. Christ, if I was Slippy, I'd just leave his ass. But yep, gotta go down to that planet after he gets shot down from Starwolf, after you nearly defeat him, and then you gotta control this thing. Again, can be very tricky, just like the other Land Rover thing, and you can switch between Jet Pilot thing too, but there's a limit to how long you keep it on jet mode, because, well, obviously the meter on the bottom tells you, and, well, once it runs out, it switches back automatically for you, or you could switch it back on your own before it runs out. Either way, it'll refill when you're on tank mode, and you can just switch it back anytime you want to jet mode. And what's really great about this thing, which advantage it has over the other vehicles, is you can actually lock onto more than one enemy at the same time. Yes, this is a cool feature. But if the controls for this thing weren't already aggravating enough, most of the level can be tricky, but the boss fight is pretty easy. But again, the switching between the views and trying to escape getting sucked into the damn thing kind of reminds me of that boss from Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, sort of, you know, with the sand thing that sucks you in. But it's not really as aggravating. Pretty easy, just shoot the little tube-like things, but it's probably better to use the bombs, save them for this guy, and it just takes him out a lot quicker. And then you shoot the beam thing off, make sure you don't get sucked in, as I said before. You can also take out these little enemy things that it shoots out at you. You don't really have to. You mainly obviously want to focus on taking out the big red spot things, and you have to be careful it doesn't fall on you, and then take out its big laser beam shooter, and there you go. Got him. But this next one, the Mothership, oh boy, should be called the Mother-ing Ship, because really this guy aggravated the living hell out of me. I'm not kidding. Again, you gotta use the tank, you can switch between the flying thing, but it's really the worst is when he tries to freaking stomp on you. It takes a big chunk of your health out. You have to make sure you preserve as much health with this asshole. Trust me, he's the worst. But after a lot of trial and error, I finally figured out how to beat him. I mean, taking his legs out is enough, but sometimes it's the worst. You have to know which ones to take out, because if you don't take the right ones out, well, they're just gonna grow right back. For Christ, he'll just stomp you at complete random. Ugh. Kind of crap just salts my open wound. So, yeah, take his legs out, falls over, you gotta keep taking him out, you know, the top part of him, and then basically that mother-ing ship is down. After a lot of trial and error. Oh yeah, now that's what I call some real fireworks there. So, yeah. The game has variety, and variety is a good thing, and most of the time these vehicles in different levels, they switch back and forth, and the difficulty too as well. Some boss fights can be easy, as I said, and some are just a straight up pain in the ass. Other times you're not fighting boss fights, sometimes you're trying to take out weapons, and even rescuing a female fighter in distress. Kinda cool, I guess. And also trying to take out these giant missile things. Ugh, a lot of trial and error on this one, but I finally managed to beat it after a few tries. And also what's really weird is, when all the characters and everything talk, the dialogue doesn't come out of the TV. Yeah, it never does, even if you switch the different viewpoints from one to another. No matter what, it always comes out of the gamepad, so you gotta make sure the gamepad's volume control is turned up to be able to hear it. So that could become a little sidetracking, so it's just a minor nitpick right there. But other than that, I pretty much beat every level throughout the entire game, up until the very last level. Well, okay, getting to the last level is very tricky, because first of all, they force you to collect these metal things. Yeah, some of them are inside the gold rings, others are, well, not, obviously. And if you didn't collect enough, it forces you to go back to the first level, which is basically an alternative take on the first level. It starts out the same, but then they really up the difficulty on this one. Because boy, this will frustrate the living hell out of you, because you gotta make sure you collect the medals and not die. So obviously if you die, you gotta start the whole level all over again. What a joke. No checkpoints, nothing. You gotta go all the way through, collect the medals, and not die while defeating this asshole of a boss. Trust me, he doesn't screw around. Yeah, just hide in here until he's done firing those stupid things. Can't get me in here, asshole. Then, after a lot of trial and error of beating him, he goes down and finally get the last level unlocked. And let me tell you, this is the part of the game that I could never beat.